Well, good afternoon and welcome back to my tiny little channel, but there you go. One day it'll be really big, honest. In my dreams. Now, in the meantime, if you have been listening to any of my recent videos, some of this may be a bit of deja vu, and that's because today what I want to look at is the issue of, he says as he puts on his big welly boots, the issue of just going back for another try. And so I'm revisiting a couple of places that I've been before this afternoon, and the first one is I want to rephotograph a tree that I shot about 2 or 3 weeks ago, just as autumn was beginning to turn. It was a wet day, so the tree bark was dark, really stood out as well because it was wet. Today's a dry day, so it's not going to be like that. It's also another, well, I think pretty much 3 weeks into autumn, and a lot of leaves have now fallen, so it's just going to look different. There will be a change of colour, there'll be a thinner canopy, and it's not wet, so it's going to be a different look. And so I was interested to come back and take a look, really, just to see how much it had changed and how that might impact the pictures that I'd taken before. Now, the photograph of Treebeard, I've got to say, one of my favourite all-time pictures. I just love that shot. There's nothing immensely special about it technically, but compositionally I really love that shot. And so I'm going to have another go at sort of recreating it, and but just under different conditions. So let's see how that goes. Well, fortunately, I've not got far to go. I think we're about 20 yards. Also, unfortunately, though, a lot of traffic noise again. So, there we have it. There is Treebeard, and it's not looking massively different, I have to say. I think largely that's because the trees that are immediately surrounding it, behind and to the right, are evergreen. So I think there's a holly. There's a little bit more colour to the left-hand side, a little bit. The trees there have definitely turned, but they've lost most of their leaves. So ideally, I'd have been here a week ago, but I was away down in Corf, and so I couldn't be in two places at once. It's a bit of a shame because I have missed some of the major autumn action, I think. But nevertheless, I'm still going to persevere with this, and I'm going to see what I can do to recreate that shot. So I reckon this is pretty much the view that I was looking at last time, and it's immediately noticeable that a lot more of the sky is visible than is visible last time that I was here. That's because the canopy is so much clearer, and so that's going to present some issues in its own right. Now it's possible I could compensate for that, well, either in post-processing, or I'm just wondering whether I could put on a graduated neutral density filter. But the sky isn't that bright. It isn't that bright, so I can either bracket this or I can try a neutral density filter. Problem with a neutral density filter is it's going to darken everything, including those parts that I don't want. But while I'm here, I think I might as well give that a go. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to get the polarizer on as well, and we'll see how that goes, won't we? So this is pretty close to the framing that I had last time. It's not precisely the same, but it's pretty close. And the polarizer is making even more of a difference today. So this is without polarizer, hardly at all, and you can see just how much glare we're getting off those evergreen leaves. And then if I bring the polarizer in, just cuts a lot of that out, brings out a little bit more colour of the russet colours in those leaves that have turned as well. So what I'm going to do, I'll take this shot and noisiest motorbike in the world there. I'll take this shot and then I'm going to try the same shot, but I'm going to put on a graduated ND filter. So let's go with a 2-second delay, and let's just make sure though that we've got focus, shall we? Autofocus. Just zoom in to just check. It looks pretty sharp there. And what about on the tree itself? Yeah, it's looking good. Okay. Another one, just in case we've got some movement. Okay, and now we're going to try that with the graduated filter. Hello again. I've got a confession to make. This is now about 24 hours later. I had to abandon yesterday's shoot, unfortunately, because of the park of shame. I left my lights on in the van and the battery went flat, and I had to be rescued by a well-known roadside recovery service. But there you go. Anyway, I'm back now and I have finally reached this destination, and the light is really flat, but it's still, and I think I've got a good chance of getting a nice shot here. I would like some warmer tones in terms of the light, but we can't have everything, can we? And it goes back to what I was saying yesterday, really, with locations. We need to keep going back and trying them in different conditions. So I'm going to try this one now. Both from this side of the bridge and the other side of the bridge. I was really hoping that I would catch this water at this level, so an almost full river course, and that's exactly what we have today. So I'm going to try a number of different versions of this shot. So I've just shot that, just to grab one in the bag. I've just shot that particular image at 70mm, no filters or anything on. I think f7.1 was the aperture, and I've got a shutter speed of a 25th of a second. So very straightforward there. There'd be a nice little reflection there, and I've cropped in reasonably closely to try and again reduce the amount of blowout of the highlights from the sky, similar to yesterday, really. Right, okay. Change my adapter ring, and we're going to try this with a polarizer. I'm not sure it's going to make a lot of difference, other than maybe just giving us a little bit more saturation in the colours. But it's not a lot going to happen, I don't think. Okay, one polarizing filter. need to increase the exposure by about a stop, roughly. Stop to a stop and a third, I reckon, to allow for the polarizer. Again, it's just really, in the greens, reducing the amount of glare off them. So I think we'll keep it on. And it just gives us a little bit more contrast in the image. High long exposure, we'll see what happens. Right, we've got the big stopper on, and I need to add, therefore, 10 stops of light. It's going to be fun. And the ISO, that says 240 seconds. That's a 4-minute exposure, and I'm on ISO 800 as well. Yeah. Goodness. What I might do is just increase the ISO even further to 1600, reduce that down to 120 seconds, and just see what sort of effect we're getting. Right, okay, I'm going to try a couple more shots from here. I'm going to see whether or not the water is too deep for me to stand in, because if I could, I'd quite like to get an image from a little bit further out in the water, sort of, so that the that tree on the bank on the right hand side isn't actually in line of sight, but I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do that. And then the other thing I'm going to do is, I've taken an image before from the far side of the bridge looking back this way, and I'll have a go at that as well. Catch you in a minute. Nope, I've just done a depth test on the water, and it's just right up to the level of the top of my welly boots, long as they are, so that's definitely not going to happen. So I'm just going to see whether or not I can gain a slightly better advantage with a longer lens from further down, where I can get more of a straight-on view of the bridge. Well, it's really, really dim, so it's a little bit challenging, and the bridge itself is in deep shadow, so that's going to need a little bit of bringing out in post-processing, I think, because that's supposed to be our subject, and it doesn't really look like it from here at the moment. If I can just turn you around a moment, then looking the other way, you can see the river is almost in flood. It's clearly been in flood, and it is in places right up to or slightly over the banks. So I might just take a little bit of a walk that way and see if there's anything interesting. Although actually no, I say that. What I should do is go back the other side of the bridge first and do the other shot that I came here to take, which is that view, but from the other side looking back this way. It may lose something this time, because since I was here before, this tree in the foreground here has fallen, and there's a whole load of detritus dammed up against the far side of it, which doesn't look particularly attractive. But never mind, it is what it is. So I'll go and see what I can do with that. So this is one of those tricky compositional ones. Firstly, how much of the river do I include? It's not adding a great deal to include too much of the water in the foreground, so I'm going to actually put the bridge in the lower third of the image, and that does leave a fair bit of the brighter area of sky coming in at the top. If necessary, I can crop that, but also it's such a dim day, the dynamic range of the Z6 II is such I'm not going to have any problem coping with that. It's not going to blow out really. And I can check that looking at the display here for the histogram, and I've set the exposure so that the histogram is just shy of the right hand side, so I know I won't end up with blown out highlights. I have finally resorted to using the remote shutter release. So we're going to take this shot. There's a couple of things. Firstly, there's a blue rope hanging down from a tree over there. Nothing I can do about that at all. And secondly, the tree on the bank is still in the shot. How wide do I go? So I think what I'm going to do there, I'm going to take a shot with that tree on the right hand edge of the frame, and then I'm going to take another shot at a wider angle, about 85mm or so, with the tree a little bit further in from the edge of the frame. And then I'm also going to take one where I actually shift the perspective a little bit to the left, zoom out a bit, and we leave that tree right on the right hand edge of the frame. And that gives me some options when it comes back to post-processing as to which of those shots I decide to work with. Actually, looking back this way, I really prefer this composition. We've got a little bit more colour in some of the trees this side. I particularly like this one overhanging the left-hand edge here, and so that's going to bring a little bit of colour in towards the top of the screen there. It's all very, very muted greens, very, very different to some of the really, really bright, strident, saturated greens that I got last time I photographed this place. Whoop, I'm sinking into the mud here. Okay, I think I've probably done it for this particular point of view. I'm going to go back the other side now. I'm going to walk down through towards the flooded area and see if there's anything interesting that catches my eye. Well, it's really getting pretty dark now, and it's been quite an interesting scene, this, and I've quite enjoyed taking these long exposures. So up to 60 seconds now, because it's so dark, that's basically what's needed. I've tried the 15mm from really down low by these reeds down here, and then decided actually I wanted to go less wide and with more height, so that I can come down on the subject to keep the highlights out. Now I've put the polarizer on, and I've adjusted the polarizer so that we take some of the glare off the water. And you see it makes a huge difference there facing this direction. So I want just a little bit of glare, and rather than getting rid of it altogether, because that just adds a little bit of life to the scene. So I'm going to do one more image here, I think, and then I'm pretty much done. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching. I hope that the point I've managed to make in this particular video is it's worth going back to the same site again and again. Even though you've shot it before, the conditions are always different, the light is always different, the weather is different, and particularly in woodland and forest, the physical environment changes all the time. So once again, thank you, and I'll see you again next time.